Well, hello everyone. Want to put together a lecture here to help cover the material. We're still focusing on infancy and toddlerhood, but we're going to talk about two other aspects here, what we would call perceptual development in infants and toddlers, how the senses work, and then I want to also talk about the concept of motor milestones and dynamic systems theory. So let's go ahead and get you started. In terms of perceptual development, we're just going to talk about a few of the senses related to infants, and we'll start with hearing. Studies tell us that when we're talking infants and then later toddlers, in terms of hearing, their hearing is actually pretty good. They can differentiate between, say, mom's voice and the voice of a stranger. The middle ear is still developing. It's not completely finished, but they are actually quite good at picking up on things. If you turn around and you take the voice of mom and put it with a stranger, or you put the voice of a stranger to mom's face, they get very upset. And it's not so much the vision aspect as it is sound. So their hearing is good. And as you see there, their hearing is actually good even before they're born. Any mom will tell you that there may be an instance where they're expecting and there's a very loud sound and the baby jumps and startles while in the womb. I had that happen once in a class where a mother was probably about 7, 8 months pregnant, and we had a sudden loud sound in the room, and everyone sort of jumped, including yours truly, but mom, she sort of jumped, and so did the baby inside. So it's amazing how that happens. In terms of smell and taste, basically what we say about smell and taste is this. Smell is probably one of their best senses, believe it or not, during infancy. Smell, they have done studies on and found that they can pick up on smells pretty good and do so for about the first 8 years. Their sense of smell gets better and better and better as they go. Taste is sort of along the same lines. The sweet aspect is pretty good. The taste of sour is not something that they prefer. Bitter, they're not too terribly nuts about. But the taste buds on the tongue and the back of the mouth are actually coming along pretty good, and they really start to show their preferences for what they like and what they don't like. So smell and taste are surprisingly good as well. The one that's not as good as one might think is vision. When infants are born, they're legally blind at birth. They cannot see and very well at all. The reason for such poor vision is really twofold. One, the neural pathways between the eye and to the occipital lobe, which is located in the back of the brain, are not very well developed. And number two, the rods and cones in the back of the eye are not very active. There are not very many of them. So they can see, but they do not see very well. And, it will just simply get better with time in that regard. One thing that does tend to be a struggle for them up until the point of crawling is depth perception. Now, depth perception simply means that they're able to gauge depth and distance and direction. And we find that a lot of infants, newborns, infants, toddlers struggle with that up until about the time they start to crawl. It seems not by coincidence that they turn around and they start to crawl and they start to do a better job of gauging depth. Okay. One way of looking at this, a very fascinating device that was created, is called the visual cliff. And the way the visual cliff works is this. It takes a little bit of explaining, but what you have here is a glass table. You have a regular table, and it's got a piece of plexiglass across it. You can sort of see that right here. Now, on one half of the plexiglass, there is a checkerboard design, okay? And it's right underneath the plexiglass, so it seems like it's real close to you. On the other part to the left there where it says glass only, The checkerboard design is attached to the bottom of the table, and it creates the illusion of a drop. There is no drop. It just creates the illusion of a drop. And if you turn around and do as you see in the picture on the right with this baby, they get to the point that you can set it up so that basically from their perspective, it looks like there is no, there's no more floor. It's about to fall when in fact it isn't. Studies have found this, that if you take an infant who just begins to crawl, is just starting to crawl, and you actually put them on the side away from the checkerboard, okay, so that basically the baby finds itself on the, say, the right side of the table, mom's on the left side, mom tries to coax the baby, come to me, maybe has a toy. When infants are just starting to crawl, they will crawl right out onto the clear glass because they don't understand depth perception. But easily within 2 weeks, if not less, of their crawling, they begin to develop a sense of depth. And they will do as this baby does in the picture. They'll crawl to the very end of the checkerboard, but they won't go any farther because to them, it's an illusion of a drop. And they won't cross it. Even though there's glass there, they're not going to fall. I did see a video one time very long ago of a very small little guy who had just started to crawl. His mother was on the far end away from the clear glass, and he started to crawl to mom. He crawled right off the checkerboard part onto the clear plexiglass, and then he could see the checkerboard way below. And he was square in the middle of that clear glass, and he just sat there and he just started to cry. He's like, I'm in trouble here, boy. The floor is no longer underneath me. But it was, and he was safe. So when it comes to depth perception as an element of vision, depth perception does tend to start to occur around the time that they begin to crawl. They are not born with depth perception. It comes at a later time. The next thing I want to spend some time talking about are what are called motor milestones. And this is a bit of a chart, but I think it will do. I know that I've got my smiling mug in the way there, but you have here 6 motor milestones. And if you look at them from the bottom up, at what age in months you can sit without support, approximately 4 to 9 months. Stand with help, somewhere between 5 and 11.5 months. Crawling usually starts around about 5.5 to about 13 months, and so on. You see it as you go up. The thing I want you to note is this, and this is extremely important. All of these motor milestones have a range. They have a range. And by that, I simply mean that sometimes you will have infants and toddlers who start at the beginning of the range, some that will start to show this motor milestone pretty much in the middle, some near the very end. So you look at the top, the ability to walk. The ability to walk typically happens around age 12 months, about age 1. But you could see it anywhere from about 8 to about 14 months. All right. So when you tell a parent that children typically start to walk, take their first steps and walk unaided around 1 year of age, but some will do it and start earlier at 8 months. Some will start as late as 14 months or longer. What do most parents think? Oh, you said 8 to 14. My child will be doing it at 8 months, 1 day and 1 hour. They always believe that their child will be on the early end of it, as it were. A gentleman I know here in town who is now a retired pediatric doctor, baby doctor, as it were. I asked him once, a pediatrician, excuse me. I asked him once, do you see a lot of parents bringing in their kids because they're not walking, yet in reality they're within that range? And he just gave me a big head nod as to say yes. Maybe the neighbor has a son or daughter that started walking, and I'm just using that as an example, at age 12 months, but their child is 13 months along and is still crawling. What's wrong with my child? What's wrong with my child? There's nothing wrong with your child. You're still within the range, and you just have to accept that. So what you see there are 6 different times. The ones that I want you to focus on is 4 of them. When they can sit up, okay, which usually starts around 6 months. When they crawl, which is about 9 months, though it can be earlier or later. When they are able to stand alone without help, which is around 11 months, and then starting to walk around 12 months. So those are the 4 I want you to know. Sitting up, crawling, standing up, and walking, okay? There is a bit of range there, but what I want you to focus on is about 6 months, 9 months, 11, and 12, okay? I think those are good setups for those times. All right. Why do some kids start to walk while others don't? Why do some kids stand while others are not standing? Why do some kids start earlier and some start later? To understand what causes these motor milestones to appear, you need to know of this concept here, and it's a simple concept. It's technically called dynamic systems theory. Dynamic system theory works to explain why infants turn around and master these milestones. Okay, so mastering motor skills requires an increasingly complex system of actions. Certain things have to occur if they're going to turn around and accomplish these. Okay, so what are we talking about? What are some of the things that will influence when a child starts to show a motor milestone? First of all, it depends on the development of the brain. CNS stands for Central Nervous System. So new skills often result based on the level of development of the central nervous system, and that is the brain and the spinal cord. That's the CNS that I'm talking about here. All right. In some children, their CNS develops a little bit quicker. In some, for one reason or another, develops later, and that's going to have an impact upon how well they do in terms of this kind of development. Another aspect is how strong is the body, the abilities of the infant's body, okay? Do they have the capacity to hold up their weight, to sit up, to crawl, to stand, to walk? Do they not have that physical ability at this time, okay? Some children seem to get stronger sooner. Some children don't have as much baby fat, and maybe that influences it. I would never suggest that a parent hold back food and nutrition so that a baby is skinnier and can walk sooner. Don't even go there. That's not what I'm going with. So the development of the brain, the development of the body, and this is a big one, what the child wants to accomplish. You will see children sometimes that are crawling and they love to crawl, and mom and dad and family are trying to get their child to walk, and they're trying to help them walk, and they'll stand up and they'll take 2 or 3 steps, and then they'll just plop down to their hands and knees and just start crawling instead. It's like they're not walking. Well, they're not interested in walking. That can be it. They're not interested in walking. They find they can get around better crawling than walking, and that's what they're going to do. And so that motivational desire is a big part of it. It really, truly is. Working with the child, number 4 and number 5 sort of go together. Support from the environment. Do you take time to, interact with your child, try to coax them to stand? Do you pick them up and hold their hands and try to get them to take step after step? Do you offer opportunities for practice and so on? And, and then practice. These are the 5 things that really are going to influence this. And I just have to tell you, you can believe that your child is developing both physically and the central nervous system. You might try to, practice and work with them to get them to walk and crawl. But if they're not interested or the body cannot handle it, no matter how much you practice, it isn't going to happen sooner. All right. Always remember, it's got to be within a range. Okay, that's enough for now, folks. Take care.